Hello, 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 everybody. Good afternoon. Hello, hello. Good to see you all here. Hope people are dropping in soon. Let's get some music rolling here. There we go. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Good to see you here. We'll give it a few minutes for people to get in here, and then we'll start reviewing some of the submissions for the Sky Sanctuary Challenge over on my Discord server. So, yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. In the meantime, feel free to ask some questions. I'm here to answer. Yo, thanks, Ethan. Appreciate it. This live is about the Sky Sanctuary Blender Challenge. So I have a Discord server on which I host somewhat continuous Blender challenges, which are just meant to, challenge you to make something fun and that will inspire you, that will teach you some new things. And in return, I critique all of your submissions and provide feedback to help people learn and understand how to make better art in Blender. Yo, Sander. Yo, Alexander. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So for this this challenge, we didn't have any sponsors, no prizes. There's basically two things that we're going to give away, which is titles for the Discord server, which you can just use to show off how good you are. So there's basically two prizes. That's the first place title of winner and the runner-up title for the second place here. So we're gonna choose two winners during this live stream, as well as just generally critique all of the submissions, look how they could be improved potentially if necessary, and what I personally would do to make it more in line with what I personally enjoy in 3D art. So I guess we're now a couple minutes in. We'll give it a few more minutes. In the meantime, any questions, drop them in chat, but I'll get sort of started on opening up some of these submissions here. We'll just do them in order of which they were posted here, so that should make it relatively easy to get them going. Now for claiming purposes, what's the word in English, I forget, but the fact that, or DMCA, that's one. Yeah, so for DMCA strikes, I'll have to mute all of the submissions because people use music which will probably be DMCA struck. So I have to mute all of the submissions, just so you guys know. Man, it's hot out. I'm not sure how everybody else is doing, but for me, it's like 31 degrees, which is not a comfortable temperature to me. And 31 degrees is Celsius, so I'm not sure what that is in the other numbers. Let's look that up, actually. That's 87.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's warm in Rotterdam. Yeah, same here, Darren. Same country, small enough to not have different weather across the board, so it's really warm. And in typical Dutch fashion, we like to whine about that, right? That's what we do. We complain about the weather. It's part of our DNA as Dutch people. All right, so we're now a couple minutes in, and we'll just go ahead and start reviewing some of the submissions. So first of all, let's just go over all of them, and then we'll dive into a few. which I think could use some changes, and we'll go into Photoshop just to go over how I would tackle these things. All right. So I'm just gonna switch here to the Discord, and yo, Comrade McDuck and Jinipa. Hot in Nepal. Yep, I can imagine. Hot in Prague. Okay. Yep, it's hot everywhere, I guess. It's a global heat epidemic. Oh yeah, the English are like second in place as it comes to like complaining about the weather, Darren. All right, so let's go over our first submission here by Sandor Joseph. I believe Sandor's in chat there. So say hi everybody to Sandor, and let's check out his submission. It's actually a really cool submission. You might recognize it from the thumbnail that I used to promote this live stream here. And there's a sort of day and night scene that's going on here. Now, I think this is really, really cool. And there's several reasons for that. If I go full screen here, we can zoom in a little bit more. But first of all, sort of the transition is really nice because it sort of flows into each other and it's this sort of perfect continuous loop. The elements in the shot are really nice, by which I mean sort of the character robot here flying, and this, I guess it's some sort of spaceship station, but it has a very unique style. The composition of the image is nice, the colors are nice, the contrast's good between like the colors of the blue and the orange, which creates the very typical complementary color scheme of orange and teal. So that's all really well done. And what I also really like is sort of the effect that you used to give these clouds some sort of painterly look. I'm unsure what that is. I'm kind of curious how you did that. But these clouds have almost like paint strokes. And I think it's more obvious in the day version. So let's go over that one. But yeah, you can see here paint stroke like edges. And it's really cool. I think it's a very nice touch for these clouds. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded if you did the same for all the other objects in the scene. But yeah, I mean, that's really about it in terms of what I have in feedback here. The lens flare is also really, really nice. Yeah, absolutely true. It's an add-on from Gumroad. Okay. You know, feel free to drop which one that is, Sandor. I'm curious. But yeah, really cool. I mean, I can't really fault this for anything. The submission is great. It looks great. Yeah. Awesome. You know, great submission. I wouldn't really change anything, I think. The only, well, if I were to be really, really nitpicky, the time that we spend on sort of the still frame of each image, so sort of this part of the animation and this part of the animation, that could have been slightly longer. So oh, there we go. Let's open that back up. Your animation is 8 seconds long. I wouldn't have minded if you added like 1 second each on each half of the animation. Just gives us a little bit more breathing room to take in what's going on, because now we get like a bunch of motion here. So around here it sort of stops, and then at around 6 seconds we're already moving down. So we get like 1 second of really still animation where we can actually take in what's going on, and the rest of it is very fast motion. So that's the only very nitpicky thing that I would have changed in this one. But yeah, really cool, very well done. Love the lighting. Yeah, overall great submission. There's a reason I used it for the thumbnail here. So no real feedback on that one from me. Let's get into the next image or animation, I should say. By the way, this was the first challenge we ever did that was completely focused on animation. So everybody had to submit an animation. I noticed some people sort of got into time constraints because of that, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about doing an animation challenge compared to doing a still. Was it more enjoyable? Did it give you more creative freedom? You know, I really want to know if this is more beneficial to you guys than just doing a still image, because the goal for me is to get you guys to do Blender, to learn as much as possible. And if a still image invites more people or makes it easier for more people to join in on the challenge, there's more to learn for people watching the live stream. There's more to learn for people in the Discord server. So yeah, that's basically the question here: stills or animations? What do I eat? I eat, a very healthy combination of unhealthy food and healthy food, I guess. Yo, welcome back, Radical. Good to have you mod here. While we're on it, would you mind doing like a ping in the Discord here to let people know that we are currently live? I mean, that makes sense, Darren. Just note that, this is a very open community, and I'm not here to sort of shit on your projects. I'm just here to give constructive feedback as much as possible. Obviously, some critique will be a little bit more harsh than others, but the goal here is to learn and grow together. So never feel like you're not good enough to submit something to a challenge. It was hard because I never animated anything, and with only 3 days free time, I lost much in the animation then. Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. So maybe for the next one, we'll go back to a still and just see if that sort of gets more people to join in. But yeah, we'll have to see. Let's dive into this next animation here. There we go. I believe let's watch it on YouTube actually, because it's probably going to be a little bit better quality. There we go. Mute that. All right, guys, there we go. So we have yo, what's up, Harnai? Good to see you here, man. But we have a nice sort of airplane animation and this very alien circular artifact. I'm doing just fine. I'm unsure how to say your name, but the Joss, yeah, doing just great. Thank you for asking. Yo, CXMCJ. I made one, but it was so ugly. I could have made something better. I mean, I'm not against you using Minecraft to do a cool render, but you could, export from Minecraft, I believe, and get that into Blender too. So that's good enough. Yeah, we could do an optional choice between animation and still that people can decide for themselves. But the thing is, once we have prizes, it gets a little bit harder because it's unfair to judge an animation against a still, because the still only provides so much context, where an animation has way more to tell. Bro, why do you post only results? I don't get any notifications to join, man. I come every time just to join next time. I mean, yeah, I don't do live streams on like the journey of all of this. So you have to join the Discord server for that, and you will get pings with like, okay, we're halfway during the challenge. We'll do a live stream then and then. Yeah, follow Discord. It keeps you up to date. But yeah, let's watch this animation once more. So we have a very nice airplane flying through the sky. I love the motion of the airplane. It feels very natural, like, and sort of drawing back speed there. But yeah, this feels really natural. I love the color scheme again, very heavy on the blue and orange. Works well, complementary, tried and tested before, and that's why people use it, right? So I mean, makes sense. It's always good to use blue and orange. Now, as for sort of the object here, I kind of like it, but I would have changed a little bit the framing of this image overall. So I've opened it up in Photoshop here, and we'll just go over a little bit of how I would have changed it. So I think now you're cutting off the object here slightly. And I would have loved for there to be a little bit more breathing room up here. So let's use some, you know, Photoshop AI magic here. Let's just generate it, see what happens. Oh yeah, man, Harna, I hope you can join too next time. Hopefully. That's a little bit of breathing room. I honestly wanted more of it. So let's go ahead and delete that. We'll just go ahead and remove the black bar from the image here. And we'll go ahead and redo the generative fill here. Let's see. Come on, Photoshop, be good. It just adds in a new black bar. Okay. I mean, sure, right? Okay, that's like a few more millimeters, and we'll do one of these. There we go. It doesn't have to be great. Yeah, so I would have liked it to be a little bit more like this, because it just leaves a little bit more room for our eyes to rest on this sort of top subject there, as well as sort of the plane here. I personally would have, again, it's gonna be super rough, guys, but else is gonna take too much time. So there we go. I kind of would have liked for this to have gone more here. You know, let's go for something like that. Let's fill in the gap here real quick. There we go. Let's add that. Boom. All right, so I would have gone for something a little bit more like this on the right side, and then maybe you could have even taken this part of the image and sort of taken it off frame a little bit here as well. So have this thing a little bit more over here, and that creates more of a line for our eyes to follow, right? But I'm okay with this thing in the middle here. So I like the letterboxing, by the way. So I think for now it should go for something like that. And we go new black bar here, new black bar here, right? Something like that. But just having this extra breathing room and the plane a little bit more to the right gives more of a leading line for our eyes to follow. So now we have a very clear, let's go red here. Now we have a very clear sort of direction for our eyes to follow over here with the object as well. And as for the color of this thing, you could have gone a different color just to make it pop a little bit more from the screen. You have the bluish from the whatever lighting you have here. You have the general orange tints from here, and then maybe you could have gone, I don't know what could work. I guess you could have gone a very vibrant orange maybe. So yeah, that could work, you know, these three colors together. I guess for the image here we could sort of select this thing here and then give it a little, there we go. Again, it's not gonna be perfect, but this needs to be orange, guys. Orange. Give me orange. Something like that. We'll have to make this thing a little bit bigger here. Look at me messing about in Photoshop. There we go. I don't know. Let's go for something like that. Yeah, there we go. I think that could have been cool. Make it a little bit brighter too. And then overall, you have a little bit more of a different image. something like that. Yep. Yeah, so this is kind of what I would have done with the image. Very minor changes. Overall, it's a very cool submission. Um, and the Sky Sanctuary theme is definitely there with the floating alien structure. All right, so let's get into the next one here. So we left off here. All right, so this is Webo. Webo always has very cool submissions too. Let's open up this one here. The quality is gonna be not the best, I guess, just because of Discord compression. Let's see if there's a oh, look over here, we get a full quality version. There we go. That's much better. So it's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle floating airship. A 1 minute long continuous render. I mean, the Sky Sanctuary theme is definitely there, right? I like the clouds. The HDRI is nice. So the overall world looks nice. I love the sun there, the flares. It's really nice. It really feels like you're actually looking into the sun here. Now, as for the sort of long camera animation, one thing I would change for that is the fact that it's a bit sort of wobbly. And I understand that this maybe has to sort of represent some sort of drone, but even drones nowadays get very steady camera work when they are flying. So I think it would have been slightly better if the wobble was a little bit less strong. Now, I also know that Webo submitted a second sort of animation here where he has some of these sort of still shots per character. And I kind of like this. They said that they tried some close-up shots here, but preferred having the one shot. I honestly would have liked a combination of the two. So having the long shot, but then switching the camera every now and then with some of these close-up shots. I think the close-up shots they add a little bit more story, they add a little bit more detail to the characters, so that's something I would have done. Now overall, it's a very stylistic piece, but yeah, it's a cool submission for sure. It's a fun one. I like how you always or a lot of times involve like topics of pop culture or toys or stuff like that. You had the one with the Lego, yeah, now Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's it's really nice. Well done, Webo. And again, except for maybe combining the two, I wouldn't really change much. It's cool to see the overall ship here. Yeah, pretty cool animation. And thank you for joining in again. Yo, Martin, good to see you here, man. Long time no talk. All right, so let's go to the next one. Nope. Wait, let me mute that. Don't want to get DMCA struck. All right, so there is quite a bit that I would like to say about this one. So first of all, you're really trying to go for some storytelling here, and I really like that. The fact that you have different shots, you're trying to convey the character going through a certain journey, and you have to work with what you can get. Yeah, and these are some of the free assets. I believe this is like a Mixamo character or something. But yeah, I like the fact that this is sort of multiple shots long and you're trying to tell this sort of story. So this is pretty cool for a shot. I also like this. the camera angle could have been a little bit higher, looking down over the shoulder, because now you're losing the sword once the character gets in front of it, which is not my favorite. Then we go on, and then we have this sort of weird camera. So over here, this camera is very, very jarring, and that's because it's fast, it's very, very wobbly, and let me play that again. It's just distracting. Now, I understand you sort of wanting to get the victory feeling of, well, it almost feels to me like a Zelda game where you pick up something and, you know, Link opens up the chest and he goes like, ta-da! Which is cool. But you could just do that with a Steadicam. You don't have to have this extra layer of animation. So just a nice angle would have been plenty here. Next, we have this shot. I guess this has something to do with taking off the helm, but I'm unsure. If it is, though, then it's kind of weird that in this next shot, there's still a helm on the character. So, you know, in like terms of continuity, you might want to look into that. And then we have Skull and Bones version, right? So this is what's his name? Ghost Rider. That's Ghost Rider here. Okay, I mean, maybe this character attained some power through grabbing that sword, and that's a cool idea. But if that's the case, then maybe the Skull character should only pop up after this sort of magic power transition that you're trying to create here. Because, yeah, you have the fade off there, right? So there's this power transition going on, and then we have the fade to white. And then from that point on, okay, now we see the character with the skull head, and maybe you could have done some glowy effects here to get more of that power emitting from the character. Again, in terms of like continuity, there's no more sword in this shot, so that's maybe a little bit weird. Yo, Prince, good to have you here, man. And hello, Frushali Firke. Thank you. Tyreforge, what's up? Doing just fine. How about you? So that's, you know, these are some of things that if you try to work on being consistent in your shots, it will immediately make the animation a little bit more believable. Really think your story through, right? So what's the story that you're trying to tell? And if something isn't feeling right within that story, then just either delete it or change it. Yo, Block. Hello. And then over here, we have the final zoom out. I kind of like this. Now, it would have been really cool if the character was actually looking at the camera and the sword was in the hand, and maybe there was still some light emitting from the character. And then there's some, I think it's transparency issues or volumetric issues, because you see these sort of black blocks pop in. We go frame by frame. There we go. So either you have to up your volume light path bounces, or maybe you have to up the transparency bounces. I'm unsure about whether or which one you should use here. And finally, you have the end of this sanctuary here that's clipping outside of your volume, and that's very noticeable because of these harsh lines. So I think the idea here is there. It just needs a bunch of fine tuning to get it to a next level, if you will. All right, so that's the next submission, and next we have this one over here. So there's this huge manta ray flying, a character chilling. Yeah, just join the Discord server block, and you can find any information on upcoming challenges there. Usually we'll just share once we go live with one. Okay, so I like the fact that you did a focus rack here. So you changed the focus from the sort of manta ray here to the character, which is nice. But overall, I think you could add a bunch of very easy details that will make this a lot better. Now, let me point out one thing real quick. Over here, I think you have foliage, and similar to the previous animation, a lot of foliage assets use image textures instead of actual 3D geometry. And when they use image textures, you get these issues with overlaying transparency, and Blender will only handle so many transparency bounces before it returns this black value. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that, but these foliage assets look like they are suffering from transparency issues. So up the transparency light path count to a very high number, and that should get rid of all this sort of dark artifacting that's going on around transparent image textures, which are layered on top of each other. So that's just one thing here, but let's get into Photoshop once more. And the first thing that I would do is add a bit of compositing to this image here. So we clearly have sort of three elements here, right? We have our foreground, which is basically everything, including the character here. It's actually quite nice and easy to sort of separate. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So this is our foreground. If we remove that, we are left with our midground, which is actually the stingray, the manta ray. Let's see if subject select will fix that. It does not. I don't know, let's go for something like that. There we go. Let's remove that. All right, so this is our next midground here, and then we sort of have our background, which again has several layers of depth, or depth, I should say. But so let's re-enable all this, and what we want to do now is you did some depth of field, right? So that's sort of step one, and that works really well. But you also want to do atmospheric haze. So it's going to be a little bit harder to do since we have no mist pass here, but let's just add a little bit of atmospheric haze. So I'm going to go and lock these pixels here. So maybe we can add in just a little bit of atmospheric haze here on the manta ray because it's relatively close. Just make that a little bit more separated. I'm actually also going to blur the entire thing there. Now, all of this would be, you know, way easier to do in Blender, since we could do it with actual real data instead of having to sort of workshop it here with this thing. I don't know. Let's very minor Gaussian blur that, and then we sort of have the other part here, which is going to be a gradient actually, and the gradient will sort of represent the haze that we want here. So I'm just going to use this color here, and it's going to be the other way around, and we're actually going to do that on a new layer. Let's go for something like that. And it's, again, very crude stuff, right? But let's see if we can actually use a different, kind of like lighter color. Okay, so now we already get a bit of atmospheric haze. It would be better if we have it with actual depth, because then we can separate the islands, the floating islands, a little bit better. But yeah, overall, we now have a little bit more of the separation of layers, right? So let's go ahead and real quick take a screenshot of the original image so we can side by side these. So this is the original image. There we go. No manta ray in this one though. And this is sort of the edit with a little bit more of atmospheric haze. Now we can do a bunch more here. We could combine all of these. And then finally, let's add a camera raw filter, which I guess you would do in compositing inside of Blender, but you could also just render it out and do this inside of... we can add a little bit more lighting, a little bit more contrast. And this is just to spice up your image. It's generally a good practice to, when you're done with your render, then take it into some sort of compositing software and try and add a little bit more life to it than you could in Blender. Let's do some vignetting, texture, local contrast, a little bit of grain there. There we go. All right, so that's one of the more final steps. And final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change a little bit of the framing here to have it be something like this. Yeah, let's make it a cinematic. Final step here, you know, introduce some basic layer boxing. All right, so I think this really already changes the image. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but again, let me let me make a quick screenshot here so we can get a before and after in Photoshop. Actually, let me redo that, guys. Sorry, 1 second. I'll do the actual same shot here, which is, I guess, one with the ray about here. Yeah, so before any changes, this is the image, and then after we make some minor changes. You see how we get a little bit more going here? We could even, I don't know, add in a little bit of volumetric fog here, get some pretty interesting shapes for sunlight coming through these pillars. That would also be pretty cool. Let's take a, again, this would be way easier to do in a different program like Blender, but you know, we'll have to make do with what we have here. Let's see, let's go for this. Let's add a nice blur here. Blur Gaussian, there we go. Let's make it a little bit stronger. You know, something like that. Have some nice light rays coming in. It's basically just a bunch of very simple changes, but overall the image, again, before, after, before, after. Yeah, I hope that sort of explains a little bit about a workflow. So this is a good starting point. Make some minor changes, and it could be all the more cinematic, all the more professional looking, I'd say. Nice. All right, so let's move on to our next submission. Oh yeah, this is a cool one. So let's go here. This is a really, really cool submission. So it's a very stylized submission. I actually really like how this looks. I'm not sure what it really reminds me of, but somehow it gives me a nostalgic feeling. Let me know what you guys think, but yeah, there's some really cool shading going on, stylized textures, this very cool looking tree. House is amazing. Everything fits in this sort of style, right? So the house has this quirky, stylized style. The clouds have that same style. Everything fits together really well, as well as the colors are really good in this image. The nice sort of dawn or sunrise skylighting that we get, the stop motion look for the animation. Overall, it's really, really cool. Now, this is an animation, so it would have been really nice to have some minor animation details, like for example, the tree swaying a little bit. You know, this looks like it's probably pretty windy area. Maybe you could get this, whatever this cloth thing on the roof here is, you could have it sway as well. This sort of sign here could sway. That adds a little bit of life, right? Now, and finally, I believe he used one of the characters from Coffee Run, which is one of Blunder's open source movies. And this, I think, is a ponytail. So, yeah, you did some animation for the character, because as you can see, the character is doing a little bit of a pose. But I think you forgot to sort of rig the ponytail here, because now it's more like a spike, right? Very minor detail. I'm nitpicking here, but I would have added a few bones here and just have it fall down like a normal ponytail would. But yeah, really cool. Loves the transition with the clouds, and it sort of transitions again into itself. So very well done. Love this. And I think what the sort of final thing is that I would change here is potentially look into the color of the tree. So I did take this image into Photoshop here. Now, I could see this really work with a vibrant orange, almost red tone for the tree here. So I'm just gonna make a quick rough selection. Let's go for something like that. I think this is more shadow than actual. There we go. Let's go for that. And what I'm going to do is going to do a new layer, mask it off like so, and then we're just going to try and see if we can add a nice. Ooh, it's set to the wrong color. Where are you? Where are you? I forgot where this thing is. It's currently set to RGB because, as you can see, I'm getting the gray color, even though I'm definitely not selecting a gray color. Where are you? Where are you? There should be like a simple setting that I can change to go back to RGB. Oh, wait. No, I'm in the... Sorry, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Actually dumb. You forgot to rig the ponytail. Yeah, okay, so that happens. It's a minor detail. Again, I'm being very nitpicky here, but oh, before I do the tree, one final thing that also would be really cool to see here is imagine the character coming out of the house. So like the first shot after the cloud disappears here, the door swings open, you know, very strong motion, and the door swings open and the character walks out on the balcony here to appreciate the sunset. It would be a really nice, very short, but snappy animation, I think. All right, so back to Photoshop here, and we're just gonna go and brush in our color. Let's make that a little bit better. Something like that. Okay, now let's set this to color. Yeah, doesn't like that. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. But that's not what I was going for. I guess we'll have to sort of do this in multiple layers. Let's go. Let's see. Let's go another one. Oh, that's actually not a bad idea. If we just take this one. Okay. Now let's do one more and we'll set it to color. Yeah. Okay. So it's far from perfect, right? But I think if we go for a color like this, we can make a nice look here. Maybe you can just simply, we probably need like a smudgy brush too to get it to look somewhat similar, but I don't know. Let's go smudgy. Let's go introduce some more reddish tones. Obviously far from perfect, guys, but yeah, I think that works a lot better than trying to do, I don't know, color saturation layers. Yeah, so something like that. You could see how that sort of changes the balance of the image a little bit. Maybe we can make it more reddish. Yeah, I think this is sort of a nice offset color to introduce just one more color that really works in a stylized color scheme, because now you get sort of, this is a major color, and you have this is a major color. You have a darker or green as a major color, and you have blue to an extent as a major color. And you have this 4-color palette that works better, well together. So that's basically all I would do. Character, maybe have it animate, come out of the house. Yeah, rigging is really difficult actually, and if it's your first time, I can completely understand that this is sort of all you had time for. Rigging is a pain. And something I don't really enjoy either, so I understand it. Yo, Cheyenne Khan, I'm doing just fine. Thank you for the compliments. All right, so let's move on to our next submission, and thank you for this pretty cool submission. So this next one really gave me Ghibli vibes. It's not done. At least, yeah, incomplete textures and didn't manage to animate it. So it's a still. But yeah, I can't really say much in terms of like how the person making this would have done a better job, because I'm not sure what the intention was here. But overall, I think this sort of viewport render here is actually pretty nice, because it gives this this pretty cool, already did that. This pretty cool Ghibli style, and you could push that by using like a Kuwahara filter maybe, or downloading an add-on that converts stuff to a Painterly style. I would try and see if I can actually get that going with a preset here. Let's just see what we get. These things really suck inside of Photoshop. It's like insanely bad. What the hell is this even? Like, just make it look. Yeah, this one's pretty cool. I don't know, something like that. It's just a simple filter here to get a bit more of a Painterly look. And then again, do some compositing here, have a little bit more separation in layers. So we could go, let's remove our filter here too. There we go. And we'll just do a little bit of photoshopping again. So I'm just going to take this main element, which is our middle element, and actually the main focus of the image. There we go. Let's take that and put it on its own layer. So whenever you work on these images in Blender, you need to treat your scene in this sort of same way, right? You have a foreground, a midground, and a background. And each of those layers could be your focus for the image. You could choose whatever, that's your artistic choice. But a good image always has a separation between those 3 layers. So this would be midground, and then let's get this cloud here. Let's see if that actually works. The selection tools in Photoshop have become quite good actually. It's kind of nice. Yep, that works just fine. And this is our foreground, and this is our background, right? So we could now introduce a little bit of darkening to the background, or a little bit of a, again, sort of, let's go and do this. We'll do a little bit of a gradient. I'm actually gonna do, yeah, let's do it like that. That's fine. And we'll go light to this layer only. And we're just gonna make the effect less strong here. Whoops, there we go. So let's find one that works. I think multiply will work if we set the strength really low. Yeah, let's do like a 25% maybe here. Yeah. Yeah, it just adds a little bit more separation between these clouds, right? And then the foreground we have over here, we could maybe blur that a little bit just so we have a slightly less strong image. But overall, we don't really need to. And then over here, yeah, the textures aren't done. So you want to add in the nice textures, and then because you now have a little bit more clear separation between the elements, you could now take all of them and then apply again your camera raw filter, or compositing, whatever you want really. And we'll go ahead and make some changes. So a small vignette. Yo, thanks for dropping in, Darren. Good to see you here. Let's add some grain. Add a bit more contrast. I'm actually going to make the image a little bit darker overall. Up the highlights, up the vibrancy slightly. It's already quite a colorful image. There we go. Local contrast. Let's do a little bit more vignetting. Boom. And again, we could introduce letterboxing here. I mean, tell me that doesn't look like a Ghibli scene. Do like a final filter here. Bada beam, bada boom. Right? Minor changes, and we get a way different image. So before and after, before and after. I sort of hope that explains what I'm going for here. Compositing is really important, even if it's just adding a lens distortion and adding a bit of contrast and, you know, a glare node, for example. Very minor, but even just doing that will make your images better. Don't overdo it though. So generally speaking, whatever you think you should add in terms of like compositing, add it and then dial it down about 50%. And that's usually a good value to go, especially when it comes to like glare and bloom. If you add those, take the value that initially feels right and then, you know, remove half of that. And then usually you're at a good value once you look back on it. All right, so cool submission. I would love to see it done, Epsilon. So if you get the time to finish it at some point, please go ahead and do so. And don't feel afraid to share that at all in here so I can see it. I would love to see it. All right, so final two submissions, guys. We're going to go into this one first by Maladaptive Daydreamer. This one. Oh, wait, this is actually not the right one. Let's go into the right one here because there's a final submission. Let's go. Oh yeah, this is a pretty long animation. So we're outside in this sort of space interstellar scene. And we're walking down this path towards this bright, shiny portal. Usually you would say don't go into the light, you know? right? So, and it's actually quite long, so I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit because this is just going inside of the portal. And then once you are inside of the portal, by the way, amazing, you did like a 2.5-minute animation. It's insane. We're in the actual Sky Sanctuary. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Maladaptive Daydreamer. The sound was really nice. It's just I don't want to get DMCA'd for that, so I would recommend, and it goes for a bunch of them, by the way. Do check these out on the Discord server because you get the actual sound, and it's awesome. And this is really cool. Love the detail, love these flowers, these statues, these assets. And the final part of the video, that is the part that was not in the unfinished render, by the way. That's now the added part here. Is also really, really cool. I'll get back to your question in a bit, Scarred. Yeah, this is awesome. Love it. Love these reflections, this sort of tile shader that you have over here. There, so nice. It's just such free detail to get a shader like that and then have it reflect all of this beautiful lighting here. Yeah, so this is really cool. Now, here's what I would do to make it even better. First of all, a minor detail here, but I would love for there to be a little bit of a fall off, like a blur between the water and space. Maybe that doesn't make sense since space doesn't technically have an atmosphere, but it's just you have this harsh line now, and it's not the best in terms of looks. I always feel it just doesn't feel natural, even though none of this technically is real, but you know. And then the other thing here is that you have this noise and around the portal here. I think it's film grain that you added in, and it's assuming you did this in post, then the grain doesn't move. See? So the grain is still. Now, probably you guys can't actually see that because of YouTube's compression crap, but there's noise here everywhere, and it's still noise. It's not animating per frame. And if you film something with an actual camera, the noise that you get in image changes per frame because the camera actually sort of, you know, technically takes sort of a photo per frame. So it changes per frame. Now, you could do this inside of Blender. There's several ways of doing that. First of all, you could just render with the noise pattern changing per frame, but this will be render noise, not camera noise. And if you want to do animated camera noise, you can just do it in compositing too. I have a video on how to do that, which I'm not 100% sure anymore which one it is, but I have a video on how. Oh yeah, it's the one with Polyfjord. So if you look into that, it's about cinematic storytelling and camera work. You can see in that video how to do an animated noise that actually functions like real camera noise would. So definitely check that out. Now, for the second part of the video, it's probably a hardware limitation issue, but you have these sort of clouds on the right side here. It would have been really cool if those were actual volumetric clouds, like, you know, get some of the volumetric VDB databases and get those clouds there. They feel a little too smooth right now to be proper clouds. They also lack, or they also lack sort of transparency that sort of comes with clouds as well. Now, overall, the scene itself though is really cool. I love all of these shots. Again, I would have added a little bit more haze and separation because in some of the shots here, you get a lot of detail going on. and your eye has a little bit of trouble to focus on what's going on. So you could have upped the volume thickness here a little bit. And then, yeah, I mean, there's small things you could do. You could add water in here, maybe actually have a fountain water spout there. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's really good, right? You just need to add some final details, add in some compositing, throw in a few finishing touches, and I think overall, you're looking at an amazing animation here. Yeah, you added water here, so that would have been really cool if you did that for the fountain too. Yeah, I mean, that's really about it. Overall, it's a pretty solid animation. Especially love the ending part here. Again, lighting incredible. Love these warm pinkish sunset colors that we get here. Love the atmospheric haze that you get in this shot. So really well done. And here's a strange issue. I'm unsure what this is, by the way, but if you look at the horizon there, you get some weird reflections on these clouds or something, I guess, and it sort of moves with the camera. Kind of weird. No idea what that is. But yeah, well done. Also, I really enjoyed your music playlist with like this synth wave music. Listened to that a bunch the other day. Yeah, great submission. Thank you. And I would love to see what you could do with this if you put in a few more hours of work and really finalize all of the details. Awesome. All right, and that leaves us with the final submission, which is this one by Julian. Again, let's open it up in YouTube here. So no sound again, guys. I'm sorry. But we get a nice camera close-up. Boom. And we go inside of this temple. Awesome. All right, so the first thing that I really experienced when watching this is it gives me very strong Zelda, the one, what's it, Skyward Sword. So it's like Zelda Skyward Sword, World of Warcraft, Shadow Legends, and Darksiders combined. And I don't think this is Eevee. I can't imagine it's Eevee, with all of the reflections everywhere going on and ambient occlusion looking that good. It doesn't feel like Eevee to me. I think this is Cycles, but I could be wrong. Now, in terms of like feedback, I love the color here. Again, love this sort of teal sky look combined with the pink. I think the glare could be toned down just a tiny bit. And then I love this first shot. And I'm not a big fan of this sort of magic thingy here. I don't think you need that. It also feels a bit sort of basic in terms of like the animation, right? It just scales up and scales down. There's no interpolation. There's no Bezier curves. It's just up, down. And I think you should have just cut the shot here. So over here, boom, first shot, then cut to this here, because now you get this sort of zoom in, and although it's pretty cool, you end very abruptly. It's like, boom, done. It almost feels like it's a cut in and of itself. So it's kind of weird to me. I would have just done a full cut from like maybe here and then just cut to here, basically. Now again here, the sort of glare is a little bit strong. You're losing a bunch of detail that's in this amazing scene, but overall pretty cool shot. Love the fire, love how all of these assets look, love this magic little thing here. And then once you go inside, again, you don't really need these sort of magic elements, in my opinion. Might be part of the story that you're trying to tell, but yeah, in my opinion, you don't need that. The inside is cool enough. You could just continue the camera motion towards this sort of main pillar here and have it end there, or maybe have a character there that it sort of zooms into. But yeah, it's really cool. Overall, the main things are sort of the interpolation paths that you use for your motion. So again, this is nice and smooth, and then you zoom in and it's kind of weird. It goes faster and faster and faster, and then it stops really abruptly. The doors close very abruptly. Then when they open, they sort of lack a little bit of weight. So they just open and then poof, they're done, instant. You want to have these sort of, they start slow and then they go open a little bit faster and then they end slow again. And these subtle details, they will give weight to your animation, and that will make things feel more realistic, or at least not necessarily realistic, but at least more pleasing to us as the audience. And there's a few jitters and sort of stutters with the camera motion. So I'm seeing one here. So you get a tiny jitter there. It could be that you rendered this in PNG sequences and made ever so slight changes in between rendering sessions, essentially. And that sort of changes it up. That could be the case there, or otherwise there's just some weirdness going on with your camera. But yeah, overall, you know, it's a very nice submission. You've got a lot going on. I think, again, the glare is a little bit strong. But yeah, great submission. And I really enjoyed the style of this animation. It brought back some fond memories of fun games that I played. So, you know, it's part of why we make art, right? To give people certain emotions and feelings and potentially bring back memories. So I'd always say that's a job well done whenever at least one person gets something out of that in that sense. It is kind of focusing to the left, Java. Yeah, it is kind of focusing to the left. So it's not centered on the door. It's a little bit offset to the right. All right, so that's all the submissions that we have for this one. I'm gonna go back to full screen now, and yeah, we'll have to just choose the two submissions that we would like the most, number 1 and number 2. Now, for me, that's probably not a huge surprise, but the first animation that we had by Sandor is the one that I really enjoyed the most. The camera motion was just incredibly smooth. All of the assets are nice. The finishing touches are great. Small, tiny... Oh, there goes my chair. I actually sank through my chair. Wait, there we go. Get back up. There we go. I was like, I was on an elevator. But yeah, love this one. It's definitely my favorite of the bunch, and I'm gonna award the number 1 place for this challenge to Sandor. So Sandor, enjoy your winning title, which you can now flex with in the Discord server. Again, there's a Discord server link in this live stream description. So if you want to join in on any of these challenges in the future, make sure to join the Discord server. And then we finally have second place. Wait, let me finish that up with actually showing you guys first place again. At least we should do that. So there we go. This is first place for me. It's just incredible animation. Very well done. Love the vibe. Oh, by the way, it also reminds me a little bit of Mirror's Edge. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the colors, but I love Mirror's Edge. So job well done. Great job. Okay, second place we are going with I think I'm actually gonna go with the house, which is, I think it's called Head in the Clouds. Yeah, that's the one. So let's go with this one. I think this is the one that deserves second place for me. It's the most unique in terms of like the style. It's really good in execution in a lot of ways, and it just lacks a few finishing touches to make it perfect in my opinion. So a well-deserved second place for this one. Very nice, and congratulations to this amazing render. So those are all of our renders, and you know, I've got a few more minutes here to spare. Thank you to everybody who took the time again to submit to these challenges. Know that you learn from it, but other people also learn from it, and you provide value to the Blender community just by contributing to these challenges. So a major thanks to everybody who puts in effort in these. Now, if you have any questions on Blender, 3D, whatever, go ahead and do that. I believe I have one more question to answer at least, and that's about Vulkan. Now, if you guys don't know, I believe from Blender 5 and upwards, we're going to get a new engine. So instead of OpenGL, I believe you currently have, we're getting Vulkan. It's already in Blender, so if you go... there we go. If you go edit preferences and then backend, it's OpenGL by default, but you can already change it to Vulkan. It's just experimental. Now, as far as I know, it's not fully stable yet, which is also why I don't use it. But Blender is very actively working on integrating Vulkan into Blender, and from 5.0 and onward, we're getting Vulkan as the main backend graphics engine. And Vulkan is actually going to be, I believe, 3 times faster than OpenGL in terms of like rendering and stuff. So it should give us major improvements for a lot of things when it comes to rendering and also in like viewport performance, right? Because it's display graphics too. So well, I mean, Susa, it really depends on what you consider not late. The stream is almost done, so you're not too late. You're kind of late though. Yeah, Scar, it would be great to have you join. I'll be sure to not overlap Punisher's challenge. For sure. A lot of people don't do those, so I try to make sure I don't overlap with those. Do you have any recommendations for animation or courses? Well, in terms of like courses, there's, in my opinion, 2 places where you can get great animation or Blender in general courses. Now, I have my own courses over on CG Cookie, and CG Cookie has a bunch of great courses. But if we're talking about animation, for example, I would definitely recommend Pierrick Picot's courses, like what's it called? Alive, or the other one, I forget. There we go. So P2 Design, The Art of Effective Rigging, and Alive. These 2 courses are like everything you'll ever need on learning animation in Blender. If you take those 2, yeah, amazing. And the same can be said for a ton of CG Boost courses. So if you go CG Boost, basically any course they offer is amazing, and well worth the money. And finally, we have CG Cookie, and there's 2 courses on there by me. But in particular, if you're new to Blender, I would say go into the not the Blender Basics, but the Blender. Where is it? Ooh, this course is by me. Catch. It's about hard surface modeling. And then we have where is it? Fundamentals. There we go. So you have this Fundamentals series. Again, I'm here talking about lighting. Great course series that will teach you all the fundamentals of basics. It's a great starting point for everybody who's now learning Blender as a new beginner. Thank you, thank you. All right, so let's see. Great stream. Yeah, answered that. Do we get another challenge soon? I try to do a challenge somewhat monthly, but you can expect like a challenge for every 4, 5, 6 weeks or so. Yeah, Max A has a really cool course too. Honestly, there's so many amazing courses out there. Not all of them, but yeah, most courses that are, well promoted, they are so for a reason, right? It's just because there's so many amazing Blender teachers out there, and courses are just a great way to get more in-depth information, which is hard to provide in a tutorial format like I make. So, yeah, any more questions? Yeah, Falcon is really interesting. We just spoke about that, but yeah, it's really going to be a game changer once we get this out of experimental, which should be around Blender 5.0. I'm not fully sure when that releases, but I believe it's somewhere around November-ish. Okay, so it boosts editing process. Yeah, okay, so it's mainly viewport stuff and things like that. Yeah, it's very unstable right now, Reticle. I saw a video about that it should improve render times as well, but yeah, we'll have to see. There's still a lot that needs to be done for 5.0 anyways. Ooh, Java Jam, that's a good question. Let's go back real quick here. If you go to system, yes, I have both my GPU and my CPU on. Now, I have 2 videos on render performance, and if you watch the latest one, it goes sort of in all that. Yeah, no worries, Sander. Good luck with that, and thank you again for submitting and being here in the live stream. Peace. Yeah, 4090. Yeah, I know. It's the business. But yeah, to get back to that, I have both of them on because for me, personally, it results in faster renders. But I know for a fact that when I had older hardware, it usually resulted in slower renders. So what you need to do is check out that video. Reticle can probably link it in the chat right now, and go over all of those steps that I mentioned in there and decide what works best for your hardware, essentially. Because there's so many things you can change, and each of them has a certain impact on the performance of Blender, right? And if you have a AMD GPU and you run on a different GPU acceleration, having just the GPU on could be faster. Or if you have an older RTX or GTX card which just runs on CUDA, again, it could be faster to have it turned off. So it's really dependent on your hardware and also on the scene that you're working on. So yeah, watch that video, try out the settings for yourself, and make sure to apply the best settings for your specific computer setup. It's hard to provide one, setting that will always work for everybody. It usually does, but not always, which is always why I say try and test these things out for yourself. Crying in the corner with Intel i5 12th gen. I mean, 3060 Ti is not bad. Oh, you don't know which one bad mod. Bad mod. It's not mod appreciation days, guys. Let's go over here. Nope, let's not go into my Google account. Let's actually go to my channel. And there we go. There it is. The fastest cycles renders you can get in Blender. Boom. That's the one. Reticle. Jeez, Louise. I can't actually type in my own chat here, so I'll have to find a workaround. No, I understand, man. No worries. I was just messing with you. But it's not mod appreciation day, so we have to be a little bit strict. There we go. Boom. Let's just spam it a couple times there. All right, so that's the video. Yeah, guys, I think I'm just gonna go and wrap it up here. Again, congratulations to Sender for winning, and the runner-up with the amazing house by Freya. So yeah, join the Discord server, become a member of the YouTube to help out the channel. It's much appreciated. We can use all the help we can get, and we'll notify anyone who joins the Discord server whenever we do a new challenge. So if you want to join these, links in the description, and it's free 100%. You get guaranteed critique on your submissions, so it's always a valuable lesson, no matter your skill level or time that you can put in. And Scared is going to say they're going to win the next one, so maybe don't join the next one then, I guess. There's no reason anymore. We already have our winner. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next challenge live stream and in a new video. There's one in the works right now, and it should be ready, I mean, sooner than later. So let's get into that. All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.